Thinking Women,
the intelligent conversation show.
It's so exciting to be back in the studio. So today it's just Mags and I. So we're doing a kind of COVID special
mix of people at home and people here.
But we're in the studio and we're really excited because it's so nice to get out and do something really fun. Yeah. So we've got some lovely guests lined up. Now they're all going to be either pre-recorded or on Zoom. So I've got to chat to the lovely Gareth, who I chatted to him in London a couple of months ago. And he's the CEO of the Presenter Studio, and we're talking about branding on camera, which is quite interesting. What have you got?
Amazing. So I've got Sarah Steele from Better With Money. So you might remember Sarah was on a few months ago, and she's going to be sharing the top tips for COVID financial health. So that's definitely one to see. And I'm also going to be teaching. No, I'm not teaching today. I've been homeschooling all week. No, I'm going to be speaking to head teacher Katherine Hunkin, who will be sharing top tips with us about the homeschooling and just talking about the experience generally. It's been tough for a lot of us. So that, again, is something that I'm really pleased we've managed to get into the show.
Yeah, and I'm talking to a nurse, a young girl called Tarryn. She's only 24 and she's in Children's A&E in St Thomas's in London. So again, a really nice interview in this lockdown period. So I'm really pleased that we're getting to grips with a couple of those really tough subjects. Plus, we've also got Lucy.
We have. So the lovely Lucy, who's joined the team, who's our health and wellness specialist, will be giving us a really nice interview actually, involving 3 tennis balls and some beans. But more about that later. Okay. But what's been in your inbox this week?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about wild swimming. Or cold water Wim Hofing?
Just thinking, or have you been in?
I've just been thinking. And look, so it started, I follow Susanna Constantine on, you must remember her from Trinny and Susanna?
Yeah,
do you remember her?
Amazing.
So she's an amazing woman. And she is, look, in her swimming costume, and she's going in, and this is in winter, people. I swim in the summer in the sea. I mean, Mags and I live in Cornwall, as you know, so I'm quite well up for a summer swim, but it's a step too far. Do you go in?
No, well, I've been in a wetsuit in the past, in the winter, but all, you know, with the hood and everything like that. But no, not in my swimsuit in winter.
And then look at these ladies. These ones are, this is a friend of mine in Scotland. So they're going in the ice. They're breaking the ice and going in. So this is a really massive thing. And I know there's a couple of chaps on that picture, but actually I've noted it's quite a big thing with women.
Yeah.
So women are really taking this cold water therapy. So have a look at Wim Hof, because he's really quite interesting in what he talks about in how it affects the immune system. And like I say, I don't go in, I don't do the actual swimming, but for maybe about 3 years, I have a cold shower. So I have my hot shower and I wash my hair and cleanse myself. And then I actually turn the tap cold and I stand for about 3 minutes.
And it's meant to be really good in taking you out of your comfort zone, isn't it? That's the idea. So that then you're not just in your little sort of warm space, you're going out of your comfort zone.
Yes, you're out of your comfort zone. You don't want to do it. It's that thing of like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you go and do it because you don't want to do it. So if you've done something you don't want to do at the very start of the day, then kind of the rest of the day is easier.
There's a challenge for us all then.
There you go.
So, I mean, my inbox, and actually the kids have been talking about this as well, is all about the balaclava. So apparently balaclavas are back, but they are more beautiful than the ones that we might remember from school.
What, from those knitted,
the home
knitted ones on the knitting patterns?
Absolutely. But take a look at this. I mean, this is very elegant. It's very beautiful.
Oh, I like the jewellery as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gonna have jewellery to go with it.
Yeah.
That's very Chanel-y.
It is.
I don't know if it is Chanel, but I like that.
Yeah.
I can see myself in that.
Yeah, I mean, it solves the issue of what to do with the hair, and it's a mask at the same time.
I'm not quite as beautiful as her, and I don't have her bone structure, so I don't know if my podgy little face popping out of a black balaclava might
I'm sure you look gorgeous.
I look more like a nun or something.
Well, maybe that's the next thing. The habit is back. So, and what's this one here? Oh yeah, teamed with a beautiful sort of, I'm assuming that's a faux fur coat there. That's looking good. That is knitted by the looks of things.
But look, as she goes down, she's got a pair of stilettos on in the snow. So she's got a balaclava on, looking nice and warm, and she's got a pair of bare legs.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're at home, it doesn't matter. I've been tottering around in high heels at home just for the sake of it. So why not?
Anything goes in COVID, I reckon.
I think so. And this, I mean, yeah, there's a bit of a sort of French theme going on there, I think.
Yeah. I like that. Actually, and so practical.
Practical, exactly.
You know,
so a bit of fun fashion in lockdown. Anyway, and now I think over to our first guest.
Branding ourselves for business on social media has become even more important during lockdown. I had a chat with CEO of the Presenter Studio, Gareth Davies, and got some top tips from him on, frankly, what can be quite a daunting prospect for many of us. Gareth, branding is so important in this visual world, and it's become increasingly important for women, I think, to present themselves in so many different visual aspects. Why is it important? Why has that become an important thing?
I think basically people buy people. So if you are a business owner, you want to be almost the personification, I would say, of your brand, i.e. being relatable, having a communication with your customer, your audience, so that people buy into both you and your brand, is the way that we're all working now. And I think through lockdown, it's been brilliant to see so many brands, so many business people taking to social media, communicating a lot more with their customers, to be a brand that's relatable and to be a brand that's in contact with their audience. I think we all want to be part of something now as consumers. So therefore, getting yourself out there, getting yourself on camera, being relatable, I think adds great value to any brand and business.
And that's all well and good. So we're looking at this, we're thinking, okay, I need to get on camera, I need to be relatable, but it's terrifying to some of us, you know? So how can you, in your professional role, ease us if we're scared into feeling comfortable with that?
I think one of the main things I would say is that sometimes with businesses or people, when we're thinking, right, we're going to communicate on social media, is we jump into that area without thinking of what our purpose is. So first of all, think of purpose in a sense of, am I using Instagram, YouTube, whatever it might be, to promote a product, to grow my audience, to justify my price, whatever it might be. Think of purpose and therefore think of the best way of creating content around that purpose. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is just be yourself. Personality is key. And I would always use the camera as a mate. So talk to a mate and not the camera.
Okay.
In a sense of, I think when people turn to creating stuff on camera, or indeed in presentations at work, whatever it might be, we all go into formal corporate jargon, corporate speak, that doesn't reflect how we naturally are or who we are. So think of yourself as a personality, chatting to a mate in a conversational manner that's akin to how you would normally speak. But also think of your audience and what kind of content your audience wants to see. So if you are a party planner, then your content needs to be vibrant, fun, energetic, inclusive, compared to if you are a top-end jewellery designer wanting to talk about, your pieces, and you only have 4 pieces in your catalogue of products because each one is your star piece and is of high value, and therefore your content needs to be more considered. So again, that comes back to purpose. So if you are naturally quite shy and not someone who wants to be in front of the camera, that's quite endearing and that's quite warm and inclusive compared to somebody who is a bit slick and a bit presentery. That's not very inclusive. So sometimes we work with people in almost completely the opposite way round to what they think they should be doing, because we're wanting you to be relatable, accessible, but above all, just you. And that's sometimes a very hard thing, as you've said, to do for yourself.
Just be you, just be you. Gareth, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Keep watching the programme, everyone.
So managing finances through lockdown has been different for us all. Some of us have had less money, and almost all of us might have been spending less money. Here's Sarah Steele from Better With Money with the top tips on how to keep your financial health good within COVID.
Hi everybody, so for this programme I'm going to give you my 5 top tips for tackling debt, because at this time of year many of us have still got that Christmas financial hangover, and any debt that we have can cause stress, it can start impacting on our health, so it's much better to nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem. So here they are then. Number 1, it might sound simple, but it's stop borrowing. It's actually going to be a lot harder to deal with the existing debts that we've got if we keep adding to them. You know, what we need to do first is try and work out a plan, pay off the existing debt before we start borrowing more. Number 2, it's to work out our budget. Let's identify where we might be able to save money that we can use to pay off on those debts. So to do that, what we need to do, I find, print off your bank statement for the last month and then work out everything you've got coming in, everything you've got coming out, and then it'll be a lot easier to see, have I got a shortfall that I need to make up, or actually, is there a bit of spare cash there that I can direct to paying off the debt that I have? Once you've done that budget, number 3 top tip is identify where you can cut costs. Now that might mean just one less takeaway a month, or it might be as simple as using comparison websites to reduce the cost of our monthly bills and insurance. Or perhaps you could just use a food planner to reduce your grocery spend. Number 4 on the list then is maximise income. You know, are you actually getting, for example, all the state benefits that you're entitled to? I find the easiest way of checking that out is going to the entitled2.co.uk website. You fill in their eligibility checker and it will let you see whether there's any benefits that you're missing out on. Then number 5 on the list is pay off that priority and high interest debt first. You know, you need to make sure you're paying off the minimum payments on all of your debt. But if you do have some spare money, don't spread it equally amongst your debts. Pay off the expensive debt first, or those ones where there's the most serious consequence for not paying. Then once you've paid the high interest ones, then you can shift the focus to the next highest rate, and then you continue that process until you're debt free. Now, if you need help with any of this, you can access the free budget and food planners that we've got on our Better With Money website. If you just go on there, click on Employee Resources page, and you'll find all of the tools that you need. However, if what I've just said, you think, well, I actually think my debt is spiralling out of control, or I don't feel mentally strong enough to deal with it, then please reach out and ask for a debt advisor for help. There's charities like Step Change and Citizens Advice, and they've got qualified debt advisors who will help you to put together your debt action plan, and they'll do it for free. You know, the good news is that 80% of people who ask for that help, they feel more in control, they feel happier after doing it. So don't suffer alone, reach out and get the help you need. So get your debt action plan sorted, and then next month we'll look at some more tips for saving money.
We all know how difficult it's been for the wonderful NHS during COVID, but we wanted to find out what it's been like on the front line. I caught up over Zoom with the lovely Tarryn Robbins. She's a staff nurse at St Thomas's Children's A&E in London.
In the last kind of 12 months, people have been really supportive of the NHS and really, really brilliant. But also there has kind of been that side of things of, you know, this is what you signed up for. When you're a nurse, you sign up to look after people. And it's, of course, we absolutely do. And that's what we've continued to do so. But, you know, working in a pandemic and working throughout the pandemic, risking ourselves and, you know, for lots of us being away from family for long periods of time absolutely isn't what we signed up for. So, you know, it's been quite challenging.
And do you feel supported by your hospital? Do you feel that everything is in place, that you can that you feel comfortable, that you feel safe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously can't speak for all people that are working for different NHS trusts. So I'm really fortunate to work for Guy's and St Thomas's, who are one of the biggest trusts in the UK. So we're really fortunate in terms of money, that our trust has enough money to provide the correct PPE. And, you know, because I did hear of kind of things in the first wave of the pandemic where nurses, doctors, etc., going into work and kind of not knowing if they had the correct PPE, having to wear masks for up to 12 hours and stuff. And that's just horrific to think that, you know, some people would be going to work and not feeling as if they were supported. But, you know, like I said, I'm very fortunate to have had a different experience to that. And actually our trust, you know, we're donating PPE to other trusts who are less fortunate than us. So yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of protection from the virus itself, amazing. And we were also one of the first trusts to give our frontline staff the vaccine. So that's brilliant.
What are your coping mechanisms? Or have you got anything in place that kind of physically and mentally gets you through all of this?
Yeah, so I think it's hard to kind of think about coping mechanisms, but if I try and look back and reflect, I think it's about really taking the time with kind of my colleagues and friends now, just to think, wow, we're actually doing this, and kind of, you know, big each other up and say how amazing we're doing, and, you know, and talking really, as you know I love to do. It really, the power of talking and getting your feelings out there when things are happening, for me, is so important, because if you kind of hold all of those things together, I think that's when it really becomes like to an exploding point. So yeah, absolutely, talking about the feelings, talking about everything we're going through with people that understand it. You know, like I said quite a few times, I'm so fortunate to have a really good group of girls that I work with who are similar age to me, and we're all feeling the same things at different points. So on one shift it will be me that's having a harder day, and, you know, then they'll pick me up, and other days it's them that are having a harder day. So absolutely,
it's possibly a lot to deal with for a young person. You know, I suppose there's not a lot of life experience that you can hold on to. Do you talk to older staff members about any similar experiences they have? Well, maybe there isn't any similar experience that anybody's been through, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, what is quite scary is that I'll speak to kind of more experienced nurses, some of the sisters at work, and they say we've never experienced anything quite like what we're working through now. But, you know, it's also quite nice to have their kind of wisdom and friendship as well. And I think that's the beauty of the profession that I work in. So, you know, I spoke a little bit about some of the girls that are similar age to me and kind of going through similar things, but also the beauty in being a nurse, I think, is the friendships that you build, you know, so one of my closest friends at work, she's in her 50s, and that kind of wouldn't be heard of somebody in their early 20s being such good friends. But I think when you are a nurse and you're exposed to some of the things we do, like I mentioned earlier, that kind of connection and friendship really does kind of bind you together quite quickly, because you know that the support and love that you have for each other is what's going to get you through, basically.
You know, you work in children's A&E, and there's been a lot of talk on the TV and radio about, you know, the rise in abuse, in domestic abuse. Do you find, being the front line of that there's more awful things being presented to you on a daily basis?
I think what's been a real challenge for us in our children's A&E is kind of the rise in children suffering with mental health difficulties. So we have seen, you know, so many more young people presenting in real difficulty, and that can get me sometimes. I think it's the hearing all of these really tragic stories about how young people are suffering with their mental health, and taking that on board, supporting them. And then it's when you go home and you sit there and reflect and think about how different life could have been for me if I didn't, you know, perhaps have some of the coping mechanisms that I've had throughout my life. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's causing a real kind of issue and a whole nother sort of pandemic in itself, the fact that children and young people are really suffering with their mental health throughout this.
So how do you prioritise your day? There's things you have to do and things that you want to do. And in lockdown, it is even more difficult to get it all right. Well, Lucy came up with a really smart idea using 3 tennis balls and a few beans in a jar. Over to you, Lucy.
Hi there. So we've been talking quite a lot about discipline, and about how you need to have some discipline in your life to get things done, because you're not going to feel motivated every day. So you need to set some non-negotiables. I have 3 non-negotiables in my day. I do yoga every day, I meditate every day, and I work for an hour every day on my passion, which is reading the tarot. And so I have those 3 things that I do every day, because otherwise, if you don't have them as non-negotiables, guess what happens? You have all these jobs, apart from going to work and having, you know, your working day, you've got all these jobs. You've got to empty the dishwasher. Excuse me, it's very noisy. You know, you've got to do all the householdy things. And then if it comes to it, you've done all your jobs, and then you think, oh, I need to do my yoga. Oh, I need to do some meditating. And oh, I need to work on my side hustle, my passion. But guess what? The lid doesn't fit because you can't get everything done. But yes, you can, because this is where the non-negotiables come in. Hold on a sec. It's a bit noisy, sorry. If you do them first, so I'm going to do my yoga, I'm going to start my day off with meditating, and I'm going to work on my tarot, and then all my little jobs are just going to fit in around it, because I've already had these non-negotiables. And look, the lid fits on perfectly. And this is why we need to have these non-negotiables. This is why we need to have discipline in order to move forward. And it's a practice. And every day you have to remind yourself at very first to make these non-negotiables, to be intentional about it. Because then, once you're done, life just becomes so much easier. And that's where, you know, if you have these intentions like a thinking woman, then you will get more done and you will feel more fulfilled. It's true.
How many of you have been homeschooling? It's not easy, it's tough. Trying to remember what's a verb, what's an adverb, all of that stuff, plus the maths. So I spoke to Katherine Hunkin, a head teacher, on how to homeschool in the best way you can.
Well, what I wanted to ask you about was what have been the main issues you've seen parents face and teachers face, and also what do we need to worry about and what do we not need to worry about, because there's all this stuff around verbs and adverbs and I can't even say or pronounce what some of those things are.
Fronted adverbials.
Fronted adverbials, yes, that. I mean, so how worried do parents need to be about all this stuff, or is this more about using this time just to spend time with your kids and bond, as opposed to getting ahead in English?
It's been really hard. It's been hard for teachers this time, I think, because we've upped every school have really upped the game in terms of the provision. So we've not gone for live lessons, we've gone for video recorded lessons. So back last summer and spring, we'd produce working packs that the parents and children could access from the website. This time we've done video recorded lessons and the pack as well. So they've, I think that's been more helpful. So rather than just having to read the instructions, the teachers talked through particular aspects, mainly English and maths, but you know, different subjects as well. And I think some parents have felt that's been helpful because they could sit the child in front of the video and learn with them. Yeah, that's really helpful. We've our families have been submitting work in through Teams. So I think teachers, not many of our teachers would have been really that confident to record themselves previously and to watch it back.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, it's not just the kids that have gone through a real change here and the parents, but the teachers.
Yeah.
Because you guys are used to being in person with the students and being able to interact with them. And that must be so difficult, having 30 kids to interact with remotely.
Yeah, and all their families. I think, you know, most teachers, they're fine teaching their class, but they're less confident teach with a bigger audience of parents, for instance. So knowing that parents are all watching them teaching, I think in the first instance, when they started doing it in September, they'd make a tiny mistake and then re-record it, or make 20 mistakes and keep re-recording it, and now they're carrying on with it. But it's things like I've heard over the last few weeks people saying I was really pleased. I just finished recording it, then realised that the screen I thought was the PowerPoint I was sharing wasn't. I was actually sharing my calendar. Or I'd just done the whole recording and then realised I hadn't got the volume on. Or one teacher, she was really pleased. She'd got all the resources, all the PowerPoints, all the videos that she was sharing, all her talking, done it really well, and then realised she'd forgotten after a half-hour session to press record.
Goodness me.
So
it's
things like that.
Difficult for everyone, hasn't it? So
yeah.
And if you had sort of 3 top tips for parents at home, obviously we're meant to be coming out of this on early March now, so we've only got a few more weeks. But what would your top 3 tips be?
Top 3 tips. I would say try and have a routine. So if you have a routine for your day, it really helps. If you get up and then have breakfast and then start some schoolwork and then have a break and then do some more work and have lunch, it might be that you don't do so much in the afternoon. It might be that that's when you do some exercise or go for a walk.
And that's okay, is it? To just
yes,
right.
Yes. I think if you can keep a routine, if they can read regularly, if they can do some of the English and some of the maths, it would be helpful. But the bottom line is children are very resilient and children will catch up. And some of the children, when they came back in September, some of the children hadn't been in school for 6 months, really, from March.
Gosh.
And what we found was it wasn't necessarily their learning that was slightly behind where it was their concentration, their resilience, their ability to be a bit more independent with their learning. I think some children have sat with a parent for most of their learning and had support for every little bit of it, whereas with 30 in the class you don't get that. And the strategies that teachers will be saying is, what resources have you got? Have you got a word book there? Have you got a plan? Can you ask a friend? Can you look back at yesterday's work before you ask for help?
Well, that's it for another month. Thanks so much to all of our guests, Gareth, Tarryn, Lucy, Sarah and Katherine. I remembered them all.
There's been a lot this month,
There's a lot, yeah. Lots for you to look at. So thanks to all of those guests. And just a message from me, stay safe, guys, and we're getting out of this.
We are. And a bit of news. So those of you that follow us on Facebook, you might notice that we've now got a group as well, the Thinking Women Collective. So sign up there and join the group, because there'll be lots more content that you can see, including the launch of our online course and tips for how to be a thinking woman, or to join the Thinking Women Collective. So that's really super
So
exciting.
powerful, so exciting. Can't wait for everybody to join in with that one.
Yeah. And we're also on Instagram, aren't we?
We're on Instagram at Thinking Women TV, obviously our Facebook page, LinkedIn. We're kind of everywhere that we can be. So please follow us. We've got loads of amazing, really amazing stuff coming up. So until next month, when hopefully we'll be back in the studio with guests.
Maybe.
We'll see you then.